So hey everyone, I wanted to talk to you about this latest Baron crash. Now, Blanco Lirio has a great video on it. I'm not going to get into that much detail. The main thing I want to read you is this document, because this flat spin accident is one of several that have occurred for now going on, well, about since the early 60s when the Baron was invented, and then prior to that in the 50s when the Travel Air was invented. So this document was by the National Transportation Safety Board to the FAA in 1981 concerning flat spin accidents in Barons and Travel Airs. So we flew a B55 Baron from 1983 to 1993. This airplane was a 74 B55 Baron. They're a great airplane. It's a fantastic machine, but if you get it into a flat spin, it's non-recoverable. And so if you don't know that, if you're flying a Baron, if you're thinking about getting a Baron, if you're doing multi-engine flight training, you want to be a pilot, this is really something you need to be aware of. And I'd really like to get your comments on this. It'd be really fantastic if we could get your comments about this in the comments section, whether you're a pilot or not a pilot, but especially if you're flying Barons. Were you aware of this document that I'm about to go over with you? And so if this could save one person's life potentially by creating some more awareness, that's really my point in doing this, because it's just alarming that these things have continued to happen over this number of years. So I'm going to read a lot of this document, not the whole thing, but I'll have it here on the screen so you can read through it. If you want a copy of it, I'm happy to email it to anybody that wants a copy of it. But I find it really compelling and very interesting and worth the read. So let me go ahead and get into the gist of it for you here. Okay, and so again, this is written by the National Transportation Safety Board to the FAA. All right. So, and it was May 7th, 1981 was the issue date. For the past several years, the Beech Baron Travel Air series of airplanes have demonstrated a propensity for entering flat spins under conditions of high asymmetric power and low speed. Between March 1978 and March 1980, there were 8 fatal accidents of this type. The accident at Cumming, Georgia on February 19, 1980, involving a Beech 95 B55, typifies the operational circumstances of most of these accidents. The instructional flight was the second in a multi-engine course involving single-engine operation and the demonstration of minimum control speed. The pilot trainee, the only survivor, recalls attempting to move his body as far forward as possible during the spin in order to bring the nose of the airplane down. Witnesses saw the aircraft spinning with the tail lower than the nose. The involvement of Beech Baron Travel Air airplanes in flat spin accidents is not a new problem, nor one that has just recently emerged. The Safety Board has previously sent 5 safety recommendations to the Federal Aviation Administration regarding this subject. The Safety Board believes that had the FAA complied with these recommendations, some of these accidents may have been prevented. Based on the circumstances of these accidents, the Safety Board concludes that training for a potential emergency in Beech Baron Travel Air airplanes, such as an engine-out condition, may be more hazardous than the emergency itself. For some conditions of airplane gross weight and altitude, the single-engine stall speeds of the aircraft are greater than the single-engine minimum control speeds, VMC. Consequently, when pilots, including instructor pilots, attempt to demonstrate VMC or loss of directional control, they may unexpectedly encounter a single-engine stall. At high asymmetric power, the stall in these airplanes is abrupt and is accompanied by rapid rolling to an inverted or near inverted position, followed by entry into a flat spin. While one could take the position that pilots should be more careful and recover the airplane before this loss of control situation develops, the Safety Board believes that such a position is tenuous. The Beech Baron flat spin accident record, coupled with the fact that some of the instructor pilots involved were highly experienced in Beech aircraft, tends to confirm that the situation demands above average pilot skill and alertness. And the Army just says here, and I'll just briefly just surmise this, but the Army in 1974 issued a report stating that power on stalls of the Beech model B55, they reported those as violent and potentially catastrophic. The NTSB says here, in any event, the airplane is not safely controllable or maneuverable under the high asymmetric power conditions and other adverse factors that are routinely related to the demonstration of VMC. With high asymmetric power, roll-off at the stall constitutes an unsafe feature that is not compatible with intended usage in a multi-engine training environment. And they say here, in 1976, the operational concept of a safe single-engine speed, what we call as VSSE, was introduced to alleviate the adverse dynamic effects of an intentional engine out at or close to either VMC or the single-engine stall speed. Subsequently, the FAA disseminated information regarding VSSE and proper engine and operative procedure through flight training clinics, pilot safety seminars, and flight instructor refresher courses. Any beneficial effects, however, were short-lived, as evidenced by the increasing number of Beech Baron flat spin accidents. The Safety Board believes that, in addition to pilot education, positive effort is needed to resolve any existing undue spinning tendencies during critical engine and operative stalls of this, as well as similar aircraft which may be certified in the future. And this goes on to say, in October of 1980, the Beech Aircraft Corporation initiated a stall research program to study the potential for moderating the inherent roll rates of conventional light twin-engine aircraft in single-engine, fully stalled conditions. Beech anticipates that this two-phase wind tunnel flight test program will take at least 18 months to complete. While Beech's stall research program is commendable, the Safety Board does not believe that it is adequately expedient in resolving the involvement of Beech airplanes in flat spin accidents. Therefore, the National Transportation Safety Board recommends that the Federal Aviation Administration require that a placard be installed in all Beech Baron Travel Air aircraft warning of the dangers of and prohibiting intentional single-engine stalls. On to say, critical engine and operative stalls. To make the test requirements more rigorous with regard to the potential detection of an airplane propensity to display any undue spinning tendency. Require Beech Aircraft Corporation to disseminate information relating to Beech Baron Travel Air single-engine stall speeds, including graphical or other information showing the operational conditions and limits wherein flight at the published value of VMC is not possible. Convene a special certification review team to explore and evaluate the relative margins of safety of the Beech Baron and low-speed, high-power single-engine operations for all conditions which may be realistically anticipated in a multi-engine pilot training environment. And here's something really interesting that they have. Require that all Beech Baron Travel Air aircraft be retrofitted with aerodynamic airflow kits or components designed to alleviate their hazardous single-engine stall characteristics. Relative to the retrofit, Beech Aircraft Stall Research Program should provide for prompt development of appropriate hardware, rigging of controls, and or other necessary modifications. In addition, the National Transportation Safety Board reiterates our previous recommendations that the Federal Aviation Administration issue an advisory curricular dealing solely with simulated and actual engine-out emergencies in typical high-performance multi-engine general aviation airplanes. The curricular, aside from providing general operational guidelines and technical information, should supplement present FAA advisory curricular hazards associated with spins in airplanes prohibited from intentional spinning. That was in quotations. By placing special emphasis on the potentially catastrophic and often irreversible situations which may develop, such as the flat spin if a loss of control is allowed to occur, this information should be mailed directly to all pilots holding multi-engine class ratings, distributed to fixed-base operators and flight schools, and disseminated among various flight instructor clinics and safety seminars held throughout the year. In addition, the FAA's accident prevention staff should, where feasible, discuss operational details with recipients to assure that the objectives of the curricular are thoroughly understood. So, in closing on this letter here, you can see that the issue of the flat spin and the Baron is bad news. Bad news. So, I would recommend that if you're going to do some multi-engine training, maybe do it in a PA-44 or a BE-76, which is a Duchess or a Piper Seminole. We'll go into a couple more things here, but I really hope to get your comments, your feedback on it, any kind of insight that you might have, and so let's continue on. So before we get into the flat spin in this Baron and a few more flat spins I wanted to briefly talk about, I want to show you something here and explain something to you. So the Cessna 310, which we flew 2 of those for about 25 years, was designed as a twin, where the Baron, which came from the Travel Air, which came from the Bonanza, was not designed as a twin. This is significant in the tail design of the 2 airplanes. The Cessna 310 has a wingspan of just under 37 feet. The tail is 17 feet wide. The Baron, the B55 Baron, has a wingspan of a little bit over 37 feet, but the tail is 13 feet 6 inches wide. So it's got a much smaller tail. When I say tail, I'm talking about the elevator. All right, the rudder on the 310 is also taller than the Baron, as far as when you're talking about from the tail cone upwards. Okay, so this just means there's a difference in design. Now this little airplane that you see here, what I'm going to show you, and I thought I would do this versus getting into the Microsoft Simulator because this is a real physical thing that I can show you. It's cheesy, but I want you to look at this with the paper clips in the front. Okay, this is our design of this airplane to replicate a Cessna 310. It doesn't mean if you get an airplane like a Cessna 310 into a spin or a flat spin that doesn't mean you can get it out. But it does mean you have the opportunity to get it out, whereas the Baron, the way it's designed, if you get it into a flat spin, no matter what you do, you can't get it out. And what I want you to watch is it's going to get into a stall and watch how it goes to the ground, and you'll see as the nose will come down. Doesn't mean it will come out of a spin, but it won't be into a flat spin. Okay, so watch that real quick. Now, when we look at this airplane, now we got the paper clips in the back. This is going to simulate the design of the Baron. Watch the way this thing comes up, stalls, and spins versus what we just showed you with the 310 design with the paper clips in the front. So you can clearly see the difference. I want you to listen to my dad here. My dad is talking about a mistake he made in our 1955 Cessna 310 when he was doing his multi-engine training. So listen to this real quick, and then we'll get into some of these accidents.
For an instructor down in Albany to give me the flying lessons and get me certified in a multi-engine. So I'd get in the airplane by myself and fly down to Albany, Oregon. And then the instructor would take me up and we'd fly around and we'd do single engine stalls and all that. And it got pretty hairy, but one time we were up there doing single engine stalls at about 5,000 feet, and I pulled the wrong lever and it ended up stalling the airplane and flipping over on my back upside down in the 310. Everything just kind of got quiet inside the cabin, started floating around. But the beautiful thing about the 310, it's very handles very well and is able to recover within about 1,000 feet and getting the engines back on. So it was a real thrill. I'll never forget that floating through the cabin thing.
So November 7345 Romeo, which was a 1974 B55 Baron, they had 3 people on board, highly experienced instructor with 13,600 hours. And basically when you look at the ADS-B data in this accident, they got into a steep descent beginning at a ground speed of 57 knots. So they were up there doing single engine training, and they got the airplane into a flat spin. The descent rate was over 6,000 feet per minute when it hit the ground, and the ground speed was 17 knots. So, and when you look at this picture, this is indicative of a pancake into the ground. In a lot of cases, these airplanes will actually even bounce. That's how flat the spin is. I mean, it's literally coming straight down. There's no forward momentum at all. That's why when you show this ground speed of 17 knots, that's the forward speed of the airplane, not the descent speed of the airplane. So anyway, so this is a classic case of that. And again, they had 3 people in the airplane, so that does not help. But there's a couple other accidents I'm going to go through, and it's eerie how similar they are. So let's look at a few more of these Barons. Okay, so this is Baron. This is a 1964 B55 Baron, November 143 Echo. And review of the radar data in this airplane showed that it was conducting various maneuvers before the accident, including a 360-degree left turn, about 4 to 6 miles from the airport. So they were doing some kind of work. There were 3 people on board, and witnesses reported hearing the sound of an airplane, so they turned and watched it, and they said it sounded like the airplane sputtered before it nosedived into a spin, which flattened out before it hit the ground. So were they up there doing some training? It kind of sounds that way, but once again, this is you can see in the photo that this is indicative of a flat spin into the ground. So this is a 58 Baron in 1985, and it's November 142 Delta Romeo, and they were up doing single engine work, and multiple witnesses said they reported seeing the airplane spinning. One witness stated that it was not nose down but more flat. Another witness stated there was no engine noise, but so they probably had cut back both motors and tried to do the normal recovery procedures and couldn't recover it. Experienced pilot here. So another example. Here's a 1982 58 Baron, November 28 Mike Romeo. This accident occurred August of 2010. Pictures of it going into the house. Probable cause, pilot's loss of control during low airspeed air work and his failure to promptly recover the airplane from the aerodynamic stall, which resulted in a spin. Contributing to the accident were the pilot and certified flight instructor's intentional operation of the airplane for the purpose of performing instructional air work with only a throw-over control yoke installed, and the pilot's lack of recent flight experience in the airplane make and model. Contributing to the lack of accurate performance data, including the air minimum control speed, for the modified airplane was the lack of guidance by the FAA administration for an installer of a supplemental type certificate to determine the relationship between all STCs incorporated into an aircraft. So this was a Fox-Star Baron. Now I'm going to show you this article here. I'm not going to read anything other than the very last part of it. This was published in 2007. If you want to pause it on screen and read it, you go ahead. It's just about the Baron and some of its history and some interesting things about it. But here at the very, very end, as we scroll down, I'm going to show you this. And it says, while the handling characteristics of the Baron are hailed as being among the best in certified aircraft, the design has been criticized for having untoward single-engine stall characteristics. Unrecoverable flat spins can be entered in such situations and have led to several fatal accidents, mostly during training flights. A few years ago, Raytheon spun a B-55 more than 100 times and confirmed that if the airplane was fully established in a spin, 4 to 5 turns, ordinary anti-spin control inputs may be ineffective. So, frankly, no pilot should allow such an airplane to get so precariously slow in a VMC configuration, even in the name of training. Finally, I want to leave you with this. This is a Really, really cool publication, Airfax. This is an article that was written by Richard Collins in August of 2016, but he points out concerning an engine failure in a twin-engine airplane, saying here, getting back down might not seem like much of a challenge. Apparently the FAA doesn't think it is, because in the official publication, Flying Light Twin Safely, there are only 2 short paragraphs about engine-out arrivals. Trouble is, there have always been more fatal crashes during engine-out arrivals than after mechanical failures of engines at a critical time on takeoff. Anyway, just want to leave you with that thought when it comes to twin-engine aircraft. And we'll see y'all later.